Greetings and welcome back to CS195 Web Development, still week 9, DOM modification, and we're on changing styles. So remember, last lesson was changing attributes. Pretty much a lot of these are going to be very similar, kind of like how we went through the CSS and all the different text properties. It's all about just knowing what you're trying to change. This does add one extra layer because when we did attributes, it was just element dot attribute, so whatever, document.getElementById by ID dot src dot href. In this case, because it's style, it's going to be dot style, but then we don't know what style it is, so it does take one more step. But at the end of the day, the concept is the same. You still select what you need to select, and then you're going to change it. So our objective is to understand how to select an element, then change the style of it. And this gives us all kinds of stuff. We can hide, display, change the color, move it around, change the position. This gives you the ability to do interactive games because you can figure out where your mouse is and then put the X and the Y of a picture to the mouse. So there's a lot of stuff with this, but allows us to change the style. So success criteria is being able to change the style of any element to a different style. All right, so we're going to watch the con video. Again, short because a lot of the concept is the same that we're going over. It just adds a little bit extra because you still have to change what you want to change, but then you have to know what style you need to change. And then a lot of it is just CSS. We'll go over the few differences. One is a little different than CSS.
Okay, now you know how to change the contents of an element and the values of its attributes. What else is left? Well, what if we wanted to change its style? Normally, we would do that in CSS, but there are some times when we want to do that in JavaScript, like when we want to animate styles over time or change them after a user clicks something, which we'll see how to do soon, I promise. Let's change the style of this heading. If we did that in CSS, it would look like this. Pound heading to select by ID, and then we'll say color orange. Ta-da! It's orange, just like the cat. Now, to do that in JavaScript, we first find the heading element, which we have here. Then we're going to access its style attribute with .style. Then we access the property that we're interested in, color, and set it equal to the new value. Let's delete the property in CSS to see if it worked. Yep, it worked. Now notice down here we've got two dots because we're actually accessing two objects. One of them is the element object and the other is the style object that contains all of the styles for that element as different properties. What if we also wanted to change the background color of that heading? In CSS, it would be background-color black. Let's try that in JavaScript. So heading l.style.background-color equals black.
Didn't work. So first of all, again, another great reason why you want to do var and actually create this as a variable, so you don't have to type this out or even copy and paste it. It keeps your code cleaner, especially when you're doing styles, when you might change a few bit of styles. But this is what you're about to go over is one of the key differences. It's still background color. You're not allowed to have dashes, so they came up with a way to fix that.
Uh-oh, we have an error. This is actually invalid JavaScript because property names can't contain hyphens. Instead, we need to convert this CSS property name to a form that's valid JavaScript, which we do by camel casing it. Remove the hyphen and capitalize the C. And let's go test it out by deleting this property here, and yep, it's still black. Now that I'm getting fancy, I want to make the heading center align too. So I will add one more line down here. Heading l.style.text align, which we camel case, equals center. Once again, we camel case it since it was 2 words with a hyphen before, and now we've got this heading that looks like our cat and also like Halloween.
All right, so let's go ahead and try this out real quick. Head back onto Trinket, full screen, make it a size you can see, drag this over. So we're just going to go ahead and show you what she was talking about. I'm going to do the class list, right? We're going to change the style of this. So tab, 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 get the right spot. And remember, it is dot to do a class list. Squiggly bracket, enter. And then let's just change the color, right? Color and to pink. All right, so you can see that changed to pink. When we do color pink, let's go ahead, go down, and do exactly what we're saying. So var list els, remember, use the S when you're doing more than one. And then we're going to do document.get elements, all right? Again, another S we need to put in there, another common mistake, by class name, and the class name was list. All right, so now we can go ahead and loop through that to change the style, right? We have to loop through it to change the style. So let's go ahead and do our for loop for var I equals 0. Where is it going to start at? List start at 0. I is less than, we've got to get the length, so we need to know how many of these elements we have. So list els dot length, because we're going to go up. So right now there's only 2 of them, so it's going to do 0 and 1, which will be the 2 elements of the array-like object, the collection, semicolon I plus plus, so it goes up by once each time, squiggly brackets, and then list els. Now again, we need to use that bracket notation because it's essentially a list, and we don't put a number there. If we put 0, it's just going to change the first one over and over and over again. So we need to put I there, right? That's the whole point of this I right here, the iterator, is so we can do that. Now, again, the code, style dot color equals, let's change it to black. All right, you can see as soon as we did that, and then as soon as I broke it, it changes it to black. And we can do more, right? So I'm just going to copy this part right here because it's going to be the same. And then let's go ahead and try background. Remember, we got that camel casing, background color, and you can also just type background, but equals, and let's change this to white. There we go. So we were able to change a couple of the elements off of it. And we could, again, do this all in one. So let's go find an ID. We have header. So document.get element by, again, not S this time, we're just doing 1. So just element by ID. Give camel case correctly. And we called it header1 dot style dot color equals pink, and you notice that this changed colors as well. So as was mentioned before, as we go through these, you're starting to see the patterns, right? You got to select it, dot, what are you changing? Style adds one more thing, so you can get that dot color, but otherwise dot source, dot ID, dot href, what you're trying to do. Now here's some other fun ones if we want to hide stuff, because this is really good. If you use display, oops, spell it right. Still can't spell it. And then we display none, right? So we're going to watch up here, none. It makes it go. It makes it completely go away. Pulls it out of the thing completely. You could also use visibility hidden, and that'll just make it not show, but it'll still keep the space. But this allows us to show stuff, right? So if we get to the events part of this and you click on something, it can then show another picture that's just hiding in the background. So that is how we change styles. Anything that's CSS you can change. This allows you to completely build a web page in theory without using a single line of CSS. You could do it all in JavaScript. I don't recommend that. I wouldn't do it. but you can. So with that, go and do the practice, the con challenge, answer the journal question, and we'll see you next lesson.